If you are over 60 and your belly keeps getting bigger even though you are not eating more, the problem is not discipline, and it is not because you are old and just have to accept it. The truth is this: there is a process quietly happening inside your body every single day, and it is beating you hour by hour. Most people think fat is just stored energy, but there is one type of fat that is not quiet at all. It is active. It communicates, and it directly interferes with how long you live. The most dangerous part is this: you cannot see it in the mirror. You cannot pinch it with your fingers, yet it wraps itself tightly around your heart, liver, pancreas, and intestines, like an invisible toxic fog. And here is something that shocks many people the first time they hear it. After the age of 60, your body actually becomes more sensitive to the right fat-burning signals, not less sensitive like you have been led to believe. The problem is not that you are not trying hard enough. The problem is that you are flipping the wrong biological switches. There are people over 65 who do not do intense gym workouts, do not suffer through strict diets, and do not take expensive medications. Yet within just a few weeks, their waistlines begin to shrink in a way they have not seen for more than a decade. Not because they got lucky, but because they targeted the exact weak point of the most dangerous fat in the body. And no, this is not a story about eating less or exercising more. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes people over 60 make is that the harder they try, the more their body pushes back. In the next few minutes, you will understand why the same action can make a 40-year-old leaner, but cause a 60-year-old to store fat even faster. You will understand why certain biological signals only start working powerfully after 60, and why almost no one is ever taught about them. And most importantly, you will discover one key factor that most people completely overlook, even though it has a stronger impact than diet and exercise combined. I have not told you what it is yet. Not now. Because if you do not understand the bigger picture first, you will not see why that factor is so powerful. If you have ever wondered why fat clings to your belly as you get older, even though you still eat the same foods that kept you lean in your 40s, if you have ever felt like your body no longer cooperates with you, then stay with me. Because what you are about to hear is not meant to scare you. It is meant to help you take back control from the inside. Strategy number 5. Activating the hidden fat-burning furnace through temperature. Something most people get wrong. Forget the idea that your body only has one type of fat. If you still think fat is something that just sits there waiting to be burned, then you are missing one of the most powerful mechanisms the body still preserves after the age of 60. The truth is, your body operates with two completely different systems. One system is designed to store energy, and the other is designed to burn energy for survival. The problem is that this second system slowly falls asleep over time, not because it disappears, but because no one knows how to wake it up the right way anymore. This is where temperature enters the picture. When you were younger, your body adjusted to temperature changes very easily. But after 60, everything becomes a little too comfortable. You stay warm. You avoid the cold. You seek comfort. And without realizing it, you shut down the biological signal that forces your body to burn fat to create heat. Researchers have discovered something that goes against common sense. Even a mild level of coolness, just enough to make the body respond, but not enough to feel uncomfortable, can activate fat tissue that is designed to burn energy, especially the deep fat stored in the abdominal area. This is not about ice baths. It is not about freezing yourself. It is not about suffering. It is simply about stepping out of the overly comfortable zone you have been living in for years. When the body is forced to generate heat, it does not pull energy from muscle first. It does not go after subcutaneous fat under the skin first. It targets visceral fat first, because this is the type of fat with the fastest metabolic response. And here is the detail that surprises many people. Timing matters more than intensity. In the evening, when your body temperature naturally begins to drop, this mechanism becomes far more active. If you intervene at the right moment, you do not just burn fat while you are awake. You extend that fat-burning signal into your sleep. Some people start simply by slightly lowering the room temperature in the evening. Others add a short period of cool exposure after a shower. What they have in common is not doing more, but doing it consistently and in sync with their biological rhythm. And here is the critical loop. Temperature does not just affect fat. It directly influences hormones and the nervous system, which we will explore much more deeply in the most powerful strategy coming next. But before we get there, you need another foundation, one that most people over 60 misunderstand, starting with the very first meal of the day. Strategy number 4. Protein distribution. Not eating more. But eating at the right time, if you ask people over 60 why they are still gaining belly fat, many of them will say, I already eat very little. I do not eat much meat anymore. I just eat light meals so my digestion feels easier. And this is exactly where the mistake begins. After the age of 60, your body no longer responds to protein the same way it used to. Not because it no longer needs protein, but because it now requires a clear threshold to be activated. Think of your metabolism like an old light switch. Flip it gently, nothing happens. Flip it firmly, and the light turns on instantly. Protein works the same way. If you spread small amounts of protein throughout the day, your body never receives a strong signal. It does not build muscle, and when there is not enough muscle to maintain, your body chooses to conserve energy by holding on to visceral fat. What many people do not realize is that every unit of muscle acts like a small heater, burning energy even when you are sitting still. Fat, on the other hand, just sits there. After 60, if you do not reach the necessary protein threshold at each meal, muscle building and muscle maintenance do not happen. Even if your total daily protein intake looks sufficient on paper, and here is the turning point detail. Breakfast is the most dangerous meal to skip protein. After a long night without food, your body wakes up with higher biological stress than usual. If you consume only fast carbohydrates at that moment, bread, cereal, or just coffee, your body receives a very clear message. Save energy, hold on to fat. But when you provide enough protein at the very start of the day, you reverse that signal. Metabolism switches on, and visceral fat becomes the targeted energy source. The goal is not to eat a lot. The goal is to eat enough to cross the activation threshold and repeat that signal at every main meal. Many people fall into a familiar trap. They eat very little during the day, then try to make up for it with a protein-heavy dinner. But by then, metabolism has already slowed down, and the body prioritizes storage. The correct strategy is to reprogram your biological rhythm with protein, so every meal sends the same message. Keep burning. Energy is still available. And here is the loop you need to remember. Protein does not just affect muscle, it determines whether your body chooses to burn fat or store fat throughout the entire day. But even if you eat correctly and activate the right signals, there is still one factor that can quietly sabotage the entire process without you realizing it. That factor is related to time. Not workout time, but the time you allow your body to rest from digestion. And that is exactly where strategy number 3 begins. Strategy number 3, meal timing. When you eat at the wrong time, your body chooses to hold on to fat. If you are eating fairly healthy, but your belly fat is not budging, there is a very strong chance that your body is not rejecting the food itself. It is rejecting the timing. Most people only ask one question: what should I eat? But after the age of 60, a far more important question is this: when should I eat? Your body does not process energy the same way throughout the day. In the morning, it is ready to use energy. In the evening, it prioritizes preservation. And if you stretch your eating from early morning all the way until late at night, your body never truly enters a real fat-burning mode. Think of your digestive system like a production line. If it never shuts down, the maintenance crew never gets a chance to work. And that maintenance crew is the process of cellular cleanup and the mobilization of deep fat as fuel. After 60, this process no longer activates strongly on its own like it used to. It needs a long enough window without food to even begin. The interesting part is this: you do not need to eat less. You do not need to count calories. And you do not need extreme fasting. Simply narrowing your eating window is enough to change how your body uses energy. When you stop eating earlier in the evening, insulin has time to come down. When insulin is low, your body cannot continue storing fat. It is forced to pull energy from the place causing the most trouble: visceral fat. And here is something most people do not expect. Visceral fat responds to timing faster than any other type of fat. Not immediately on the scale, not in the mirror, but in how you sleep more deeply, how your belly feels less tight in the morning, and how your waistline is the first thing to start changing. The most common mistake is changing too abruptly. A body over 60 is highly sensitive to stress. If you push it too fast, cortisol rises, and cortisol gives one clear command: hold on to fat at all costs. The smarter strategy is to shorten your eating window gradually, so your body understands the message. There is no crisis. This is just a shift in rhythm. And when that rhythm is adjusted correctly, something very important becomes far more active while you sleep. Not muscle, Not the heart, but the system responsible for cleanup and metabolic reprogramming. But for that process to run smoothly, you need one more factor. A factor that does not come from the gym and does not come from medication, but comes from what is living inside your gut. Strategy number 2. Reprogramming the gut. When bacteria decide whether you burn fat or store fat, if you think fat loss is just a conversation between you and food, then you are only seeing half the picture. The other half lives in a place most people never pay attention to, your gut microbiome. After the age of 60, the bacterial balance in your gut changes in a very noticeable way. Some strains that help you burn fat begin to decline, while strains that push the body towards storage start to grow stronger. And here is what really matters. Two people can eat the exact same diet and get completely different results, simply because their gut microbes are sending different signals to the brain and the liver. There are certain types of fiber that are not just there to help you have regular bowel movements. They act like biological commands, forcing the body to turn visceral fat into fuel. When these fibers reach the gut, they are not digested right away. Instead, they become food for beneficial bacteria. And when those bacteria get to work, they produce small molecules that can directly instruct fat cells to release energy. This becomes especially important after 60, because your body listens to signals from the gut more than signals from the brain compared to when you were younger. Not all fiber works the same way. The advice to just eat more vegetables is far too vague. Your body needs the right type at the right time to create a clear biological response. And here is the key point. When the gut starts sending the right signals, insulin becomes more stable, inflammation goes down, and visceral fat becomes much easier to mobilize. That is why some people do not lose much weight on the scale, yet their waistlines shrink dramatically. Not because they lost water, not because they lost muscle, but because deep fat is being pulled out of the most dangerous storage. But there is still a deeper layer. You can eat the right foods. You can eat at the right times. You can feed the right bacteria. And yet, all of it can still be sabotaged by one invisible thing you carry with you every single day. That thing is not on your plate. It is not in the gym, and it is not in your daily schedule. It lives in your nervous system. And that is exactly where strategy number 1 comes in. The strategy that finally helps many people understand why they did everything right and still could not get lean. Strategy number 1. The nervous system. The final switch that decides whether you burn fat or store fat. If you remember only one thing from this video, remember this: your body will never burn fat efficiently if it believes it is in danger. You can eat the right foods. You can eat at the right times. You can activate muscle, feed beneficial bacteria, and adjust temperature. But if your nervous system still thinks, there is danger, I need to stay alert, I need to conserve energy, then every other effort is like pressing the gas pedal while the parking brake is still on. After the age of 60, your body becomes more sensitive to stress than ever before. Not because you are weaker, but because your nervous system has spent decades adapting to pressure, loss, illness, responsibility, and unexpected changes. And the nervous system does not analyze reasons. It asks one very simple question. Is it safe to burn energy? If the answer is not clearly yes, the body does one thing and one thing only. It holds on to fat, especially visceral fat. This is why so many people over 60 say, I am doing everything right, but my body will not cooperate. It is not that your body is not listening. It is listening to a different signal, one that is stronger than all the others. The good news is this: you do not need to change your entire life. You do not need intense workouts, and you do not need miserable dieting to change that signal. You simply need to communicate with your nervous system again, using a language it understands. That language is not thought. It is not willpower. It is breathing. There is a specific way of breathing that shifts the nervous system from defense mode into recovery mode. When that happens, a chain reaction spreads throughout the body. Stress hormones go down, heart rate stabilizes, digestion works more efficiently, and most importantly, the hold fat signal is switched off. But here is the critical mistake many people make. Deep breathing alone is not enough. The body only responds when you breathe the right way, in the right place, and at the right rhythm. When you breathe into your chest, the nervous system still reads it as mild stress. But when you breathe with your diaphragm, allowing your belly to move instead of your chest, you send a very clear message. Everything is safe. Energy can be released. When that message is repeated consistently, the body begins to do something. it previously refused to do. It starts pulling energy from visceral fat. Not immediately on the scale, but in a lighter feeling in the belly. Deeper sleep. Fewer random cravings. And a waistline that begins to change in a completely different way than before. Timing matters here as well. In the morning, when the body wakes up with naturally higher biological stress, this is your chance to set the tone for the entire day. In the afternoon, when the body is more likely to slip into fatigue and storage mode, this is when you prevent fat from returning. It does not need to be long. It does not need to be complicated. It just needs to be consistent. And here is what makes this strategy the foundation of everything you have just heard. When the nervous system is regulated correctly, protein finally does its job. Meal timing becomes effective, the gut responds more positively, and the body stops fighting against you. That is why people who apply this strategy first often say, for the first time in many years, I feel like my body is finally on my side. Final section, not perfection, but the right direction. If you are waiting for a miracle, this video is not for you. But if you are looking for a reasonable path for your body, after the age of 60, you have just seen it. You do not need to do everything at once. You do not need to change your entire life overnight. What matters is flipping the right switches, in the right order. Start with breathing, because it requires no equipment, costs nothing, and delivers immediate benefits. Next week, make a small adjustment to your eating window. Then, focus on protein, then the gut, then temperature. Your body does not need to be forced. It needs to be understood correctly. And if you are over 60, remember this. Age is not your enemy. It simply demands a different strategy. Before you go, I want to ask you one question and answer it honestly in the comments. Have you noticed belly fat appearing even though you eat the same way you did when you were younger? What part of this video surprised you the most? We read every comment, and many of our future videos are created directly from those questions. If you found this video helpful, tap the like button so more people your age can see it. And if you want to continue understanding your body better after 60, subscribe to the channel, not to watch more, but to understand more clearly and live more lightly in the years ahead. Thank you for staying until the end.